Hey, a couple of days ago, the Tennessee Titans signed their top draft pick, the second pick overall in the draft, quarterback Marcus Mariota. If you're running that team, guys, do you, I'm going to give you three choices here. Do you, A, automatically give him the starting job, B, make him compete for the starting job with last year's starter, Zach Mettenberger, another young kid, or C, declare Mettenberger the starter and give Mariota time to develop, because we do know that he did not play in a pro-style offense in college, never took a snap from under center. What do you do with the guy?
I will go with A, make him the starter, but with a couple caveats. You've got to understand, it's difficult as a young player to go out there and try to practice every day when you're competing every day. He makes a great throw, well, now I need to make a great throw. And you lose the practice component, and you start trying to play the game on Wednesdays and Thursdays or during the 7-on-7 during training camp. So
especially in a scheme you're not used to, it can be disastrous.
So by making him the starter, you reduce that competitive pressure on him. But at the same time, you do have to do what's best for your football team. And if things during training camp aren't going the way you were hoping they were going, or not going at least in the right direction, then you got a guy with Zach Mettenberger who's played some, who you know you can rely on, with the understanding that, Marcus, you're really going to be the guy, but right now you're just not up to speed.
Well, how important is it for Ken Wisenhunt, the head coach there, to adapt his scheme to Mariota if you're going to declare him the starter from day one? And it's hard not to. He's the second pick overall. Everybody expects him to play.
The league, again, has changed so much from, come in the league, sit for 2 or 3 years, learn the system. Aaron Rodgers, go back to Terry Bradshaw back in the old days. I mean, that was even John Elway that Dan Reeves didn't want to start him. So now it's immediacy. Put him in the lineup, find out what he can do. I think if you're going to keep the other quarterback, you've got to have an open competition between the two of them and see who actually wins it. That would be my choice. Is I don't know that I suddenly put in an offense and you got a guy going, Zach, so they're going, this offense is my offense. I want out of here, which he said right after the draft, I want out of there, and they didn't trade him. So I think you have an open and honest competition and see what develops. Is Mariota ready to go in the NFL? Or does he need some more training? They still got to find out about Zach. I mean,
open and honest competition with that high of a pick. The owner is not interested in an open and honest competition. He's not interested in Zach Mettenberger being his starter. He does not want that. We draft this guy. We're paying this guy. He has got to play.
You know what you're not considering, though? If Ken Wisenhunt doesn't adapt his scheme to Mariota, it could be a disaster. And Wisenhunt could be out of a job in a couple of years.
Right.
So he either has to do that if he declares Mariota the starter, or he does open it to competition, or he makes Mettenberger the starter so he can win a few games and develop Mariota. But there's not going to be a lot of patience
I would
for it.
agree with you, and here's a good point for you to think about going into coaching. How many coaches, I'm going to ask the two of you, how many coaches do you think are head coaches in the NFL that have been on the job for 5 years, where they are now?
It's a very small percentage. I do recognize that.
Well, there are 32 teams.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin just got his extension. He's one of the longest tenured coaches. What's he been there 7-8 years now? So,
Coughlin,
I would say less than half.
Oh, I'd say coaches. A lot less. I'd say maybe 6 or 7.
How about a quarter of the 32 coaches?
8. Okay.
8. So it's not a permanent job, and John Fox found that out in 2 places over the last 12, 15 years. So I would agree with you. The only reason I bring that up is Wisenhunt is just under pressure to do something right or wrong. John Fox told me when Tebow, I know you don't remember that, when Tebow replaced Kyle Orton, since we mentioned both of them earlier, in that Kansas City game, almost brought them back. And the question was raised by me, are you going to start Tebow this week? This is a normal question. And he said, well, we're going to have an open, honest competition. We're going to make it. And so he walked by me, and there was a radio guy right next to me, and Fox leaned over to me and said, what you want to do is not what you always can do. And he walked away, and to this day, I still don't know exactly what he meant, whether he meant, I want to move to Tebow, and I can't, which he did, or keeping Kyle Orton. So I think Wisenhunt's sitting there going, what is the right thing to, here's what I want to do. I want to put my number 2 overall draft pick in there and hope that he does okay, because they won, what, 3-4 games last year? But
and Mettenberger went 0-6 as the starter, by the way.
Yeah, so
you got to make a decision really early. If you're going to go into camp with a sense of a competition, make a decision who's going to be the guy really early, because then the locker room starts to divide. Guys start choosing sides, and then it spirals out of control. You don't have one quarterback; you got two. You got two different factions in the locker room. You got to make a choice.
How many times that happened in your career?
We had Trent Dilfer, Matt Hasselbeck. We had Mike Tomczak, Cordell Stewart in Pittsburgh. So I've been through that a few times where guys start to choose sides.
Why do players, let me ask you honestly, why do players then take sides? Why don't you do your job? Let them choose a quarterback and you play the best you can. Why do you have to sit around at the lockers and go, I don't like that guy. I want him to play the other guy.
Players want to win.
Because we want to win, and we all, just as
you know
we all have an
better than
opinion.
coaches?
We all
Sure
have an
they do.
opinion. We all are the smartest person in the room, and I can't believe he's starting that dude. I like this dude. Or, if it's a receiver, that quarterback likes me better.
Or if it's yourself.
Whatever the case may
I like
be.
me better than the other guy.
Yes, exactly.
Well, that's human nature, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's human nature. Why in the world? I mean, I went through it my whole life. Why in the world is he a columnist and I'm not? You're right. I don't know, but I'm just saying that's part of being in the locker room. So you go say, well, players going to choose sides. They're going to choose sides no matter who you pick. Isn't that true? I mean,
No.
if they say Mariota, everybody in the locker room is going to say, oh, I would like Zach. He's my friend. We go out drinking.
But then they will get over it pretty quickly. If there's a long-term competition going, that just lends itself to choosing sides. Yes, of course, everyone's going to have an opinion, but after a while, people kind of start towing the company line and kind of get in order. But again, if it's going into week 3 or 4 of the preseason and there's no clear starter, these guys are switching off series. There's no continuity in offense. There's no continuity with the cadence. Receivers don't know where they're supposed to be. I think that's not the way to go, particularly for a coach who's really in a tough situation as far as how long he's going to be there without having a successful season.